Hello, how are you? How's your IELTS writing? And in particular, how's your IELTS Task 1? Today we're going to look at IELTS writing when you have two graphs. So have a look at this one. You can see there's a bar graph here, and on the right hand side there is a line graph. Let's read the instruction. It says, the graphs below give information about obesity in 5 regions and food energy input and output in 2 of the regions over 10 years. And the next sentence is in every IELTS exam. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Let's just have a look at it, before we go on. So the bar graph shows you the percent of the population. So these numbers here are percentages. And the age group of the people are teenagers or older, so in other words, adults. And there are 5 different regions of the world. The line graph is not about people. The line graph is about energy intake or calorie intake, and output, intake and output, expenditure, which might be in the form of exercise or physical activity. Now you have to do this very quickly, this little analysis. Can you see here it says PO, PO, SEA, SEA? Where does that information come from? Look at the whole thing together and you can see that PO refers to Pacific Oceania. So what does SEA mean? You guessed it, Southeast Asia. Remember, the bar graph is about people. The line graph is about energy in, energy out. Let's look at each graph in detail. So, what are the main features? You must become very good at ignoring the detail. So what can you see? Who is the graph about? People aged 15 years or older. What is the bar graph about? It's about the level of obesity in people. Where does the information come from? 5 regions, and all of these regions are on the Pacific Ocean. When does the graph deal with? We don't know. Then you want to ask some questions like how much, how many. The smallest proportion of overweight people is in Southeast Asia. These are just very quick observations. The last question, why, is usually not important in Task 1. What about the line graph? Here we go. Food energy intake and expenditure, and the K refers to kilojoules per day. Let's go through the questions again. Who is it about? Only 2 regions on the ocean. What is it about? Food energy in and energy out, probably in the form of exercise. Where does the information come from? Southeast Asia and Pacific Oceania. Do we know when the data was collected? Yes. Can you see here? It's got the 1990s. And the last question you might want to ask is how much or how many, just to see the very quick observations straight away. You can see this one goes up This one goes down and the other two are largely the same. Now, why do you think this information might be useful? It shows that Pacific Oceania has more obese people than Southeast Asia. So that's important information. Okay, here is the model answer. I'm going to read it with you, and then I'll just quickly point out why this one is a good example. Let's read it together. I really encourage you to read aloud with me so you can improve your grammar at the same time. Let's begin. The two graphs show 5 different regions of the world in terms of their level of obesity and their calorific energy intake and expenditure. The level of food energy in and energy use is shown over a 10-year period. The bar chart, which compares the 5 regions, clearly shows that North America has the highest amount of overweight people, at 75% of the population. Central America is slightly lower with 70%, although Pacific Oceania is not far behind at 66%. The region with the least number of overweight people is Southeast Asia. The proportion of obese people there is only 30% of the population. The line graph shows how much food energy is taken in and spent to provide a comparison between Southeast Asia and Pacific Oceania during the 1990s. It is not surprising to note that while calorie intake increased substantially in Pacific Oceania over the 10 years, energy output decreased. This explains why their level of obesity remains high. In contrast, Southeast Asians maintained the same level of intake, and their level of physical activity declined only slightly. Now, as we were reading, did you notice the commas? Did you notice the linking words? Did you notice the variety? Let's look at some of these features. The first one is your ability to compare or use comparatives and superlatives. Can you write like this? The highest amount of overweight people. Slightly lower, adverb, adjective. Not far behind. The least number, the same level of. Variety. And also we use other expressions to compare, like the word compare, provide a comparison of, or linking words like however or in contrast. So that's the first feature. What's the second one? The variety of vocabulary and word forms. Remember, the bar graph was about obese or overweight people, so you need to vary how you say this. For example, their level of obesity, or overweight people. People who are overweight. The proportion of obese people. Notice the different word forms. The second graph, the line graph, was about energy in and energy out. Have a look. Energy use. How much food energy is taken in? How much food energy is spent? Calorie intake. Their level of physical activity. And my little tip for you in the test is rely on the words given in the task, but change the word form to show variety to the examiner. What's feature number 3? Feature number 3 is excellent use of verbs and adverbs together. Clearly shows, increased substantially, declined only slightly. You must do this to get a good score in IELTS. Feature number 4 is excellent linkers. Now, in my experience teaching IELTS, too many students just throw a linker in and hope that it works. You cannot do this. You have to choose the linker for its meaning, not only for its grammar. Here is a short list of some of the ones we used in this model. Can you use them? In terms of, although, it's not surprising to note that, this explains why, in contrast. So we've looked at 4 writing features. Now let's think about the overall structure. The first paragraph outlines all the essential and broad information, like what is the data about, who is the data about, what the measurements are they in percentage or calories or energy. The second paragraph shows the first graph. So it starts like this. The bar graph, which compares the 5 regions, clearly shows that. The third paragraph shows the line graph. The line graph shows how much and etc. Very clear opening sentences. So the 5th feature is excellent clear structure. So try to answer the questions of who, what, where, when, how much, how many, maybe why, to help you write a good overview at the start of your task 1. So my name is Ruth, and I'm always available to help you with your IELTS writing. I really encourage you to go back to the whole text and read it again, and you can find me at any of these social media platforms. Good luck.